that was just egregious, okay? Just, oh my God.
Time is irrelevant here in the seventh circle of hell.
Well, folks, we are now 8 episodes into Starfleet Academy, and the main plotline continues to be this sort of internal struggle that our characters continue to face and overcome. To which I am once again asking, why the hell should I care? Just listen to this, okay? This is the episode description verbatim, okay? A visiting instructor uses unorthodox methods to help cadets process their emotions at the academy. Every single episode has been about processing their emotions. What are you talking about? Why are you still putting me through this? Because, at the very end of the episode, they're not that much more developed. They're not that much more interesting. In some cases, they're even less interesting than they were before. Why? I am honestly convinced at this point that the writers, if that's what you can even call them, only know how to write this one storyline. Character X discovers blank about themselves over and over and over again. They don't know how to escalate a plot. They don't know how to move from the first act to the second act. They have no idea where to take this story, so they just keep taking it back in a circular fashion over and over and over again. Well, let's discover what this character thinks about themselves. Oh, let's discover that this character is non-binary or some other horse trash. Like, it is just so face value. It is so something that ChatGPT could shit out in half an hour, and then you can just tweak the script a little bit, and it's like, here you go. Here's another episode about my feelings, and it's like, it's because, and I say my feelings because that's literally what the writers are doing. They're just writing their feelings from middle school and high school and maybe a little bit of college because there's some sex thrown in. But beside that, what are we watching? What are we continuing to watch? It's just the same story over and over and over again because these people literally don't know how to do anything else. So basically, I don't know if you all have kept watching or not. Probably not, and I respect you and salute you for that. But just to give you a quick recap, we're going back to sort of the aftermath of the Miyazaki. So we kind of just skipped over that. That all happened 2 episodes ago. We just kind of skipped over that in the last episode. And it was oh yeah, Miyazaki, what? There was barely even a reference to it. But now we're coming full back in and it's oh, wait, by the way, that thing that was really traumatizing and awful for everybody, we're really upset about that. Let's go back to that and talk about how upset we are at it. So it's focusing on all the disharmony and all the ways that the students are kind of breaking down. And apparently they're just they're even beyond therapy, which is clearly, obviously available at Starfleet Academy. Captain Mushmouth decides that they need some more unorthodox methods. They need to go deeper. And they bring in this lieutenant who is, I guess, from the Discovery series. So there's a reference to that. I'm actually kind of grateful that I'm not getting all of the Discovery references, whatever references there are, because that sounds like a terrible series as well. But so we get this woman to come back in and apparently, and so she's the instructor teaching them unorthodox methods of processing their emotions. And what that really is she's teaching these kids theater. Yes. Starfleet Academy now has a mandatory theater credit that you have to take, apparently. And really what it is it's this underhanded way of getting the students to process their emotions and process their grief and their trauma, which I guess would be okay if, one, we weren't at Starfleet Academy, the Naval Academy, right, of the Federation. And 2, if we hadn't just completely dropped off from those events an episode ago. The pacing in this is so weird. It's so awkward. It's you go from baseline, if this were one of those heart monitor things, it'd be going flatline, nothing even happening. And then you have this Miyazaki episode where a bunch of people get killed and it's and then it came right back down to you don't even really know what to expect from each subsequent episode because it's are we going to get a plot? Are we just going to get another comatose episode? And so when they're yeah, everybody's still really upset about the Miyazaki, I'm kind of are they? because nobody really talked about it in the last one. In fact, they all went out for spring break. So forgive me if I'm struggling to understand the complex emotions of the students here at this academy, because it really doesn't feel like there's any coherent logic or reasoning to anything that they're feeling whatsoever. It's just, it would be like talking to the same person every single day. Like if you have a coworker or something and you're like, hey, Gary, how's it going today? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. And then like one day you're like, hey, Gary, how's it going? And they're like, oh, my dog died. And you're like, really? Oh my God, that's awful. And you're like, yeah, he was in the same car crash as my wife and she also died. And you're like, what? And then 2 weeks go by and he says nothing about it. And then all of a sudden it's like he has an entire breakdown. He's like, yeah, I'm really just upset because my wife is dead and I don't know how to handle it. I'd be like, why were you at work for the last 2 weeks then? You know what I mean? Like none of this is coherent, you guys. None of this actually makes sense the way that human beings would process emotions or process trauma. And somebody said that because each of the episodes are like written by different people, mostly different people with a couple of the same writers, there is no context to the other episodes. There is no coherence to them. They're all just kind of shitting out an episode based on what they think could possibly be going on. And then they're kind of like stitching it and folding it back in together at the end as the showrunners. Maybe that's true. I know that a lot of TV shows are written by teams of people, and movies are the same way, but there feels like some merit to that, because this is it's so incoherent as a storyline. It's like there was nothing even happening before the Miyazaki. There was no build up to it. There has been no build up to anything this entire series. There has been no hints at something bigger, at the fate of the Federation or rebuilding it after the burn. There hasn't been any fleshing out of the difference between Starfleet Academy or the history of the War College. There hasn't been any build up to like these two teams needing to work together, except for that one episode where somebody from the War College was randomly killed. There's nothing bigger that this series is leading up to. It's just, oh, let's explore this person's feelings. Oh, let's explore this person's feelings. Oh, let's explore this person's feelings. Oh, this person's trying to find the meaning of life. And then boom, terrorist attack. Hundreds of people are dead. Okay, well now let's talk about this person's feelings. And you're just like, oh my God, give it a rest. Give it a rest, you guys. So while our cadets are now playing theater kids, right? They're starting to act out this play that Sam the Hologram picked out, which is Our Town, which is an actual real play. It's the 1938 play by Thornton Wilder. It's a pretty famous play. I personally find it depressing as hell, but it's like a metaphor for, life and death and grief and the passage of time and all of this stuff. So, they're trying to layer it in here in this kind of like Star Trek way, but like, once again, the greatest challenge that any of these writers have ever faced is some kind of, crying competition in theater class. This is the vast life experience that these writers are drawing upon to bring us this show.
I've got nothing to be embarrassed about.
No, you do not.
I'm going to write the most erotic, graphic, freakiest friend fiction ever.
All right.
So Sam the Hologram is glitching out, and, the doctor from the Voyager series and then Captain Ash, they have to take her back to her home planet to try to fix her. And in the process of trying to fix her, they kind of discover what is causing her glitching has been her inability. Like she's having like sensor overload or like a microchip overload. I forget what it is, but like basically her processor is overloading and she's like shutting down. And apparently that's just because, the holograms that created her didn't equip her with a childhood, didn't equip her with the core memories needed to process grief and trauma. So they basically have to shut her back down and then bring her back as a child. And then the doctor agrees to kind of be her dad for the next 17 years. And they have this like little time thing where life on the hologram planet is like 17, it's like 5 years for every 3 days on Earth. So it's like really they're going to be gone for a couple of weeks. But everything just ties back to feelings. Every single plot is just about feelings or the inability to process your feelings or your unresolved feelings or feelings you didn't even know you had. I have never been confronted with so much feeling and at the same time so little conclusions, so little actual growth that has happened from all of the processing of feelings. This series is so stupid. And then, as if that isn't enough, now we get more Betazoid girl. Yay! We get more of the romance that has the actual chemistry of like Harry Potter and Ginny Weasley in the Harry Potter movies. Talk about cold fish, no chemistry whatsoever. So Betazoid girl comes back from her coma, and like she's not the most offensive character in the show, but like she also has the complexity of just like a wet paper towel. Like there's just not a lot going on with her character development. There's not a lot going on with anybody's character development, but she particularly in this episode is very emotional, and really she's trying to capture like, I guess, you know, the case study of like recovering from trauma and all this other stuff. But like there's just not enough to her to make me interested in any of that. You know, she's all upset and depressed to be back, to which I'm asking, why are you back? And she got switched from the War College to Starfleet Academy because basically like the War College isn't safe anymore and she needs to study like science or I guess theater. So now she's no longer with the War College. She's a part of Starfleet, which only goes to reiterate that we never needed the War College in the first place. Are we not building towards something where the two colleges are working together? You know, you have some characters who come in and they're very prominently in some of these episodes, like the War College Chancellor, you know, you have the Klingon woman, and then there'll just be entire episodes where they're just not there at all. So the fact that the War College hasn't been in the last two episodes since the Miyazaki, they killed off one of the War College students, and now she's a part of Starfleet. I feel like that choice is just a very lazy writing choice to kind of like write out the War College, for it has served its purpose, which was essentially to create some kind of romantic tension between Betazoid girl and main character Caleb. Like there was this little bit of like Romeo and Juliet tension or like Gryffindor and Slytherin tension. And like, we don't need that anymore because now we have Betazoid girl's trauma to kind of layer into the relationship. And it's fine, whatever. I don't care. Never cared about the War College to begin with. I hardly care about Starfleet. So that's just my guess. Maybe we'll see the War College come back if we have an episode that has some sort of climactic event. At this point, I doubt it. But there you go. That's my hypothesis on why she got switched over to Starfleet. She's like all upset and depressed. She doesn't want to be in Starfleet. She feels like she didn't have a choice. She gets drunk in one scene and she kind of yells at Caleb for not being attentive enough. And then she just has like a whole bunch of emotional outbursts at people. And like clearly she's supposed to be the most traumatized and she hates how everybody is treating her now. But like it feels so middle school because she's not processing, you know, her capabilities. She's not processing her feeling out of control or struggling to get it back in control. She just shows up with a brand new like there's like this neuroinhibitor thing on her neck, which apparently is keeping her from doing all of these things again. But we're not here to like address any of that. We're not here to address like the root of what's causing these superpowers. Are they superpowers? Is she at conflict with them? Is it something that is consuming her? Is it like the Hulk, you know, kind of situation? Or is it more like Spider-Man, like ka-chow, like I can melt you with my brain? So you're very unclear. And instead of diving into this more, really her main concern is that other people think that she's a weirdo. And this goes back to what I've been saying, you guys, is the emotional depth, the emotional maturity of the people who are writing this show doesn't go beyond what they've experienced in high school. They have been in some kind of bubble they've isolated themselves with their own worldview and their own experiences, and they've all had the exact same experiences. And this is what counts for writing. This is what counts for conflict or character growth, is just, I don't want to be Ghost Girl and I hate the way everyone looks at me and nobody wants to touch me. And you're just like, wait a second. You can kill people with your mind. Can we focus on that for a second? No, one would think, right? But that gets into the realm of actual plot. That gets into the realm of like, okay, you have to put yourself in someone's shoes and you have to think about maybe a little bit of science fiction or draw on past experiences or even old Star Trek episodes or bring in something else from a different science fiction world that would make this like overlap or reference something even cooler, the way that, you know, the Duffer Brothers used to do in Stranger Things with like different horror movie references. No. Let's focus on how popular or unpopular she's going to be. That was just egregious, okay? Just, oh my God. And there's also just so much plot armor here. Like now they're using her telepathy as a way of skipping over dialogue or like scenes that, you know, haven't really been written or told to the audience. We can just write off with, well, I'm a mind reader. It's almost like the same thing as, well, it happened off screen. Like, you know, she gets really insecure over Caleb and Genesis, who are, you know, hanging out in the last episode together. And she's picking up on the fact that there might be chemistry, which is something that the rest of the audience has not picked up on at all. So, you know, if that's what's going on there, then kudos to her, because I'm not getting that. They barely shared a screen this episode. So she gets all insecure over that. And when Caleb is like, what are you even talking about? She's like, I can read minds, Caleb. And you're just like, you couldn't even have written in a scene where like Caleb and Genesis share a joke with each other, like right in front of Betazoid Girl. And she's like a little bit off, but none of this feels off. None of this feels like in pace with each other, because Betazoid Girl and generic Genesis, I don't think have like really shared a scene one-on-one before this episode. So like, again, we're not building out the independent dynamic of any of these characters whatsoever. It's just you and Genesis like each other, and I can tell because I can read minds. Okay. All right. This is where your master's in script writing has led you. You know, I will say if there was going to be a saving grace, you know, ish, or at least a like bright note in this episode, it would probably be Robert Picardo's performance as the doctor. When he goes to Sam's home to figure out why she's glitching, there is actually a little bit of emotional weight to this storyline. And I think that's because of a couple of things. I think one, you know, Robert Picardo had a great performance. You can feel that he's one of the few people in this show who doesn't feel like they're acting. You know, it feels like it's coming natural to him, that he knows who his character is. He's already embodied it from Voyager. So you're getting somebody, one of the very few actors in this show that is very natural on screen as his character. Pretty much anybody else is just, you can tell that they're an actor playing a role. I would say the only other person who's not doing that is Tig Notaro, and that's just because she's playing herself. But at least I feel like I'm listening to a real person and not somebody delivering lines. So, you know, Picardo's performance is really good in this. They've also done something here where they led up to it. They built up to it, because you have Sam, who's this like naive, completely brand new entity, I guess you could say, you know, as a hologram. She's not a person, but she is a person. But she is like brand new to the world, and she immediately looks to the doctor to be her mentor. And she's like, oh, and you're going to be my mentor because you're also a hologram, and this is so great. And he just shuts her down very brutally. And I think it is one of the very few times that you actually do get a sense of character emotion or character depth, because Sam is one of the more likable characters, and just there's a genuine happiness. It's almost just like a golden retriever type of energy and enthusiasm for things. And she's really looking to the doctor to be able to guide her. And he's just very brutal in the way that he responds to her. No, I'm not that. I'm not that person. I'm not going to do that for you. Go away. And you can tell, I haven't seen the Voyager series, so I think that's probably a lot more fleshed out there, obviously. But you can tell that he's still in pain from a past experience. And you get that in this episode, him kind of recounting the loss of his family and all of that. So you get a little bit more of this emotional nuance from someone who's actually lived through life experiences beyond theater class. And I think that was something that kind of tied in the storyline a little bit together, where you take the least unlikable character and one of the only, you know, characters who actually has been fleshed out from a previous series, and you put them together in a scene, And that had a good bit of weight to it because, you know, they take her back to her home planet, and the creators, the ones who kind of run the planet and made her, they decide that there's nothing they can do for her and they're going to shut her down. So she's temporarily dead. And he's kind of reliving that pain all over again and coming to terms with how he didn't support her when he probably should have. And he's also reading he's also reading the play Our Town and kind of seeing these things in retrospective. And he talks about how memories come to life. They come to color in the play when stuff that is happening in real time is all black and white. And he's starting to recognize that, you know, our memories are what make us ourselves. And that is a good poignant moment, especially when he says that he's going to be her dad and give her a childhood, and that's going to basically help fix the glitch. And so on this planet, they actually spend the next 17 years, and you flash through her childhood, her life experiences, him holding her hand, him playing with her, him teaching her things. You know, this probably felt like the most Star Trek thing, where it really did kind of make you stop and reflect on the moments that can feel so small in the life that we're living right now. But when we get to the end of our lives and we have very little to look forward to and everything else is in our past that we look back behind us, those are the moments that will stand out the most. They'll stand out in this bright, shining color. That felt very, very Star Trek, in a way that was very reflective, in a way that felt very, very artistically, creatively intertwined with a broader message. Now, I think they borrowed a lot from a very famous, very emotionally weighted play in order to pull this off, but that was the least offensive thing, and probably actually the most of all the emotional beats that these poor people have tried to lay down for us. This is the only one that could have possibly potentially hit in somebody's heart, truly. But then we close out the episode with a dramatic reading of the play where everybody is now crying and laughing and hugging each other. And Betazoid Girl comes back in to play Emily because she somehow reconciled all of her feelings through the magic of theater and everything is happy. And Sam comes back and she gets a big hug. And we're back on our way to greener pastures here at Starfleet Academy. That's really how the episode ends. And it's just, okay. I would strongly hope that we get something to happen in these last two episodes, but as we have not been building anything up this entire season, as we've not worked towards anything, there has been no continuous plot line to keep us going throughout this season. All we've done is explore extremely flat and unlikable characters, so I gotta tell you, my hopes are at rock bottom for this. I mean, I am just praying for, at this point, a meteor to hit Starfleet Academy. Maybe we can hit the button on like Burn Part 2, start again from scratch, bring in some real writers this time. Or maybe, you know, Critical Drinker's right, Star Trek is dead, it needs to die, and we all just move on. I don't have the answers. I just have a microphone. So thanks for sitting through this with me again. And please let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm excited to hear what you think so far. And if you like this video, please like, hype, subscribe so you can get more of my content. Thanks again, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.